Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We link up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
Oh, yes. The girls are here. The girls are here. We are here today on We Got Issues, and it is the Force of Friendship. Today, it is Katrina Harris Earl, your host, and our girlfriend, Gloria Mayfield Banks. We are celebrating her today, as today is her birthday. So we want to give some love and a shout out to our girlfriend, Gloria Mayfield Banks, who I'm sure is not listening, and she is in Bali with her name. Okay. So we know she's not listening. We will also want to give a shout out to our girlfriend, Sabrina Guma Monday and Kenny Monday, who today is a big day in the Monday household, moving from Geneva on the Lake, Ohio to Baltimore, Maryland. And today was the official announcement with Morgan State, ESPN, everybody in the house announcing Kenny Monday as the wrestling coach at the only HBCU to have the sport of wrestling currently. And those of you listening in, I'm sure by now you know that Kenny Monday, Google him. Okay, you can walk through the African American History Museum and see his name, the first African American man to win a gold medal in the sport of wrestling. It's really, really a big day today. And of course, in worldwide news, literally, they said that probably 60%, they said somewhere between 40 and 60% of the globe right now is focusing on the news of the day. I'm sitting here today with my girlfriend, Chrisette Ellis. We both are donning our pearls and our black as we celebrate the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest serving monarch that has died at Balmoral, age 96, after reigning for 70 years. OMG. And so we're going to talk all about it. You know, it's one of those things that I don't know if any of our listeners ever were in the presence of Her Majesty. If you were, we definitely want you to call in 313-778-7600. Even if you were in the same stadium, the same whatever. I have stood outside of Buckingham Palace when the flag was high, which means that she was in. And so we're going to talk all about it. We know that our girlfriend Sabrina Guma Monday and Kenny Monday just also returned from England. So I hope they got some I hope they have some pounds, okay? Because even the money will change so much. And in true media fashion, I think, Chris, we were supposed to change our theme song even for today. Everybody's changed. So,
Wow.
So we're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about your thoughts. We're going to talk about the monarchy. We're going to talk about what does it mean. I'm going to share with you some history and what are all the steps that happen when the Queen passes away. And but in true We Got Issues fashion, there are plenty of issues happening in the world today. So say hello to the people, Chrisette, and we got a couple other news stories before we get into the news story of really the year, the century, they say.
Right,
So,
exactly. Well, hello. And I'm excited to be here on this thankful Thursday. And of course, we had something totally different planned for today. But just like all of the news networks, they shifted, they pivoted. We love that word, with the news of the passing of the Queen of England. And so we absolutely want to celebrate her life on today and even talk about some fun facts that you may not know about the Queen of England. And I mean, you know, I was really kind of surprised because we've watched her over the years celebrate birthday after birthday after birthday. And I think one of the things that she said is that while celebrating a new birthday is always wonderful, it also carries sadness, because as you get older, sometimes your dearest friends and family, they pass and you are left there by yourself. So as you age, it can become lonely. I've gone to several funerals of individuals who lived a very long life, and you look around and it's not a lot of people. And it doesn't mean that they weren't well loved, they weren't well liked, that they didn't have an impact. But many times it just means that they outlived most of their family and their friends. And so one of the things Chuck says all the time is, I'm always gonna make friends with young people. Okay, I'm making friends with the 5 years old and the 6 year old, because when y'all are gone, they're gonna still be here, and hopefully they'll remember me and say, "Oh, he was such a nice old man." So so always constantly making friends. And so today we are adorning our Black, just as in mourning with all of the UK as they celebrate the life of Queen Elizabeth II. And so we stand in solidarity with them on today. But I would be remiss if I didn't give my girlfriend Gloria Mayfield Banks a shout out on her birthday. And so, of course, she's in Bali. I don't know what time it is. I'm sure, a huge time difference, but we absolutely want to celebrate her on today. And of course, Sabrina Goodwin Monday and Kenny, we are so proud of them and what Kenny is going to be able to accomplish at Morgan State University. So when I tell you these chicks on We Got Issues, they got a whole lot of things going on. They got issues, but right now their issues are fantastic. Their issues are hashtag, as they say, goals, because I know just watching the kind of jet setting travel that Gloria and Ken are doing, that is hashtags goals for my life. So anyway, Katrina, I know there's a lot in the news, and I'll be honest, when by the time I turned the news on, all the news, all the uproar was about Queen Elizabeth's passing. So I'm going to throw it back to you if you have other news, and then we can talk about the Queen.
Absolutely. Well, we have to give a shout out to another queen of a different level, but another queen, you guys. Mrs. Universe, not Miss Universe, Mrs. Universe goes to Tennessee State University alum. Sabrina Goodwin Monday went to Tennessee State, and she is a member of Delta Sigma Theta. And so I'm the pink and green, they are the red and white. But we celebrate her, a beautiful, she looks so young. Chris, I don't know if you got to click on the article, but her name is Juanita Brown Ingram, earning her crown as the 2022-2023 Mrs. Universe. Wouldn't have been possible without her village. And she talks about her village, her tribe, and everything. And so that is news today. And another big loss today was the very first anchor of CNN, Bernard Shaw. You heard about that, Chris?
Yes,
talk
I did.
about what you heard.
Well, I just heard that he passed. I certainly remembered him being one of the anchors of CNN, and it really was just so awesome to be able to turn on a major network and to see a Black face, a Black man that was hosting. He was so eloquent in giving the news. I mean, he is absolutely an icon when it comes to newscasting. And even sometimes when you are the very first, sometimes it's more challenging, more difficult, because the first carries so much weight. And but I'm sure that there were many that aspired to be in that field, that he gave hope to them. And I'm sure sometime tonight, hopefully Don Lemon may even talk about, knowing him and how maybe that was one of the people that he looked up to. And maybe he thought, hey, I can also host on CNN because of a Bernard Shaw. So I just think it is so important, and I'm so glad you brought that up, that we celebrate his life as well, because he definitely leaves a legacy. And I'm sure so many, again, have been inspired by him because of him being the very first Black male anchor on CNN.
I mean, it's so huge, and no comparison, of course, to the Queen, but this reminded me of because he would get so much news coverage, of course, especially on CNN, with the exception of the Queen having passed. But it reminds me, Farrah Fawcett passed away, and a few hours later, Michael Jackson passed away. And we all knew and loved Farrah Fawcett, but she was a whole different level of star than Michael Jackson, right? And so it's like it almost got just no news coverage because when Michael Jackson passed away, it was like, yeah. So I hope that CNN will do it justice. I heard the story about how he went to Walter Cronkite twice and said, I want to be a news anchor. And it's so important. That really, ministered to me as an older person mentoring someone younger, as someone who is white and had an opportunity to be at the table, inviting someone else to the table, opening a small door for them to break the door down and come through, and how how his career came to pass and how CNN gave him that opportunity. And I saw Ted Turner, an interview where he said, we're the only network with an African-American anchor and a woman producer. And so it was, unheard of at the time. He was at CNN for 20 years and he passed at 82 of pneumonia, not related to COVID. And so as we go and talk about the Queen, we're going to get ready to play that first clip in just a moment. But, speaking of COVID, two things that came to mind immediately. Number one, imagine if this had happened in the height of COVID, because this is going to be thousands and thousands of people will come to London. And what a blessing it is that the country can really mourn publicly. And the fact that the Queen herself had COVID. And while we know that, well, we don't know, but it's just interesting as we've seen, and I'm sure you've experienced too, Chris, that it's a blessing that she didn't pass from COVID, right? But it just makes me wonder, and she was 96, so, we're not making light of that age, but does COVID cause things to
play
progress?
A role? Yeah.
Does it play a role? And so as we get ready to play this clip, you guys, we have just a couple minutes. I think we can play it before we go to break. This is from the BBC, and we are mourning with the UK, but 15 other Commonwealth realms: Antigua, Barbuda, Australia, the Bahamas, Belize, Canada, Grenada, Jamaica, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Solomon Island, Tuvalu, and the United Kingdom. Let's play the clip from the BBC.
The BBC is interrupting its normal programs to bring you an important announcement.
The logo goes from black.
This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. In a statement, the palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. BBC Television is broadcasting this special programme reporting the death of Her Majesty the Queen.
And here is the Queen's anthem. Yes. Uh-huh. God save the Queen. We will be right back after this break. All right, we are back. We are back. We are back. Thank you for tuning in to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. And today we are talking about the death of Queen Elizabeth II. If you've been to London, you just can't help but get caught up in the pomp and the circumstance. I just can't imagine anyone who is watching who didn't watch the wedding of Harry and Meghan, the wedding of Princess Diana, and now King Charles III. Hello. So we're going to talk all about it. Julia, there's a sister said, can't imagine Charles being king after the dirt he did to Diana. We'd love you to call in and talk about it. So Chris, I have a lot that I wanted just to share, but just what were your thoughts? Just, memories. We talked a little bit about London not that long ago. And here we are, but what were your thoughts and just your feelings about hearing of her death?
Well, you know what? While we know that no one is going to live forever, she has been around for so long. And of course, when you live to be 90 and 96, you are going to have some health challenges along the way. And I guess because she's had health challenges before, that she's come through them, that when I heard the news today, I really thought, excuse me, I really thought that, she was going to pull through. But of course, we know, your body is different from, being 70 to 80 and then 90 and 96. And so I really kind of thought that. And then a thought did cross my mind when they talked about all the family had come in and that, they were all there. And I started thinking, sometimes when you're ill and it's not as serious. Family will call in and they'll check in. But when it sounded like, they were by her bedside or they were just standing by really close, and that's when I thought to myself, maybe this is more serious. And, the way we say things in America and the way they say things in London are not always the same. In America, oh, they're on their deathbed, they're about to pass. We're maybe a little bit more descriptive, but just what they were saying in London or there in England, it wasn't, to me, I didn't get that five alarm that it's going to happen any moment. And so literally I thought our topic, we were going to talk about her being ill in the news, and then when it came across that she had passed, I was like, wow, that changed everything. So yeah, I was really kind of shocked. I really kind of thought, it's the queen, as they always say, long live the queen. I really was one of those who would have thought she was going to make it to at least 100 years old.
Her mother lived to be 101. And so it was not, it was within the realm of thinking that it definitely could happen. But wow, the longest reigning queen. I'm going to share some facts with you about her. And then pretty soon we're going to play a clip that talks about all the different chess moves that happen when the queen passes away. But now we have King Charles III. I'm talking about this because I know somebody gonna want to call in about this. Now there's protocol. He is the king. He will not be skipped over, regardless of how you feel. But not only is he mourning his mother, but he becomes king. So sometime within 10 days is going to be this the largest funeral of our lifetime, they say. And then there also will be a coronation. He may change his name. He might keep King Charles. He's the third because there's been two other Charles. But even though he's had a life of duty and he served his country and he's been ahead of the game on environmental and climate change, of course, his life has been full of some scandal, which we all know about. Prince Williams now becomes the Prince of Wales. So much for he just moved with Princess Kate for a more normal life for their children. God had a different plan. Today was the first day of school for Prince George, their eldest son, and now he becomes second in line to the throne. So, and then Chris, Liz Truss has been the prime minister for 2 days. I mean, they said this is like, we all know this is a career defining moment. And I heard, did you hear her make her statement?
Yes, I did hear her make her statement. And she even talked about how, the queen had really supported her and she definitely was in her corner. So that, I'm sure that gave her, some sense of feeling like, she had the support of the queen, and hopefully I'm sure that plays some part in her popularity or how people view her, to have the backing of the queen. And so that was, was a very somber statement by her, but nonetheless, she did mention that the queen was definitely her supporter.
I mean, wow. It just is like you think of President Bush and 9/11 happening, and I'll read Dorothy's comment in just a moment, but you think of that happening and you think of how it unifies and how it brings together. But there's economic impact with the instability that it brings. This is what happened today. For those of you tuning in, Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest serving monarch, died at Marlborough after 7 years of reigning. Her family gathered at the Scottish estate after concerns grew about her health earlier on Thursday. The Queen came to the throne in 1952, and y'all know, many people might not realize, but she was not supposed to be queen.
Right.
It was supposed to be, the uncle, but he abdicated because he married a twice divorced woman, and that prohibited him from being able to be king. With her death, her eldest son, Charles, the former Prince of Wales, will lead the country as mourning as new king and the head of state of 14 Commonwealth realms. Queen Elizabeth's tenure as head of state spanned all these things, post-war austerity, the transition from empire to commonwealth, the end of the Cold War, the UK's entry into and withdrawal from the European Union. Her reign spanned
Hey,
15 prime ministers. Go ahead.
I was just going to interject. We kind of passed over that fact that she was not supposed to be the queen. Can you imagine? I believe she was only 25 years when she was crowned the queen. But can you imagine, having and when I say normal childhood, of course, how normal can it be? But, growing up, becoming a teenager, becoming a young adult, not worrying about the responsibilities of what being the monarch means. And then through a course of things happening within your family, it's like, tag, you're it. And you're like, I'm it. I mean, and I can imagine, I remember being in my 20s and all the things I wanted to do and what I was going to do. And, hopefully when I was going to get married and this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, it's a screeching halt. Somebody said, man makes plans and God laughs, right?
Mhm.
And so I love that scripture that says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but God's purpose will prevail. And so I just think at 25 years old, she had no clue. At 24 or whatever, I don't think she would have had a clue that her uncle would have chosen love over the throne. And that's a good question. Would you choose love
Conversation.
over power? And that might be our question
Because
for tomorrow.
and the fact that the king is divorced. Well, not, yeah, divorced, the whole controversy, but not just divorced, is clearly unfaithful in the marriage. One thing to be divorced is another thing to have committed adultery when your mama is the queen and the head of the church. So that's a whole other conversation.
Exactly.
But yeah, Edward the Eighth abdicated from the throne to marry the twice divorced American Wallace Simpson. That was some serious love. That's a good conversation, Chris. Maybe we have that tomorrow. So, but can you just
Yeah.
imagine? She was queen when Winston Churchill was the prime minister. Like, that's what we studied in grade
Unbelievable.
school. So it's like that's a long time. Married for 73 years. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the other thing that we absolutely want to say about her is, at 96 years old, she still had her wits about her. At 96 years old, I mean, they
2
never
days ago,
talked
she was
about.
standing up. 2 days ago, she was shaking hands with the current prime minister, like less than 48 hours
Exactly.
ago.
So I'm saying they never talked about, and I know you won't know all of her medical history, whatever, but I never heard, that, oh, she was suffering from Alzheimer's or had dementia or anything like that. Every time we've seen her, in her 90s and even statements that she was making, she seemed to be fully aware and, could hold, conversations and continue her duties even at that age, which is absolutely amazing considering how old she was.
It's for real. I mean, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about all the things that happen when the king passes, and we're going to talk about those jewels. We're going to talk about the money, y'all. I mean, all the money is going to change. Like, we're going to talk. This clip we'll play shows how much money it's going to cost because of everything that has to happen when there's a new queen. If you have not watched The Crown on Netflix, it was my absolute favorite series I've ever watched on Netflix, probably, period. There probably were some in the past. I used to love 24 with Jack Bauer, but I'm telling you, I love The Crown. Dorothy says if you haven't watched it, be sure to check out The King's Speech, the movie about Elizabeth's father and how she was thrust in line for the throne. I mean, it's really good. Yours too, LaRonda. Thanks for a shout out. And Dorothy also says on September 13th, put your comment up, Dorothy. September 13th, 2001, 2 days after the 9/11 attacks, Queen Elizabeth ordered the Royal Guard to break centuries-old tradition dating back to 1660 and play the U.S. national anthem during the changing of the guard. She said she did this to provide some comfort to Americans stranded in London. Wow. And you remember our girlfriend, wasn't Gloria? She was
Gloria.
there at that time. And
I
she's
think they
always
were
traveling
stranded
someplace
in
for her
Ireland.
birthday.
I think she was in Ireland.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about everything that happens when the London Bridge has fallen is stated, because today is called D-Day, and what was stated is London Bridge has fallen, and that is how they communicated that Queen Elizabeth II passed away. We're going to talk about it. We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 313-778-7600, or type some good, juicy stuff in the chat for us. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. Thanks for tuning in. I know everyone is paying attention to the news about the death of Queen Elizabeth II. We're going to play this clip in just a moment. Queen Elizabeth was in Kenya in 1952 representing the king when Philip broke the news that her father had died. She immediately returned to London. She was crowned at Westminster Abbey, where her service will be. It's one of the most beautiful. I mean, that's one of my most memorable things, walking through Westminster Abbey, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. June 2nd, 1953, at age 27. And at that time, it was a record number of people that watched on TV, 20 million, which pales in comparison to how many will watch. Her romance, they were married at Westminster Abbey, November 20th, 1947. And she spoke of the Duke of Edinburgh, her husband, Prince Philip, as her strength and stay through 74 years of marriage when he passed away in April 2021 at age 99. That's a whole other conversation when they talk about how challenging it is for people, even when you're queen, when you lose the love of your life. So we're going to play this clip and then talk about it. What happens when the London Bridge has fallen? It begins Operation London Bridge. And here, learn all about it from this clip.
Queen Elizabeth II has been alive for more than 95 years, and she's held the crown for more than half of that, making her the longest reigning monarch in the history of the world. She's lived through over a dozen British prime ministers, 14 US presidents, and 20 Summer Olympics.
God bless her, she's 95. That's a long-lived life. That's a life well lived.
This is Bill Booth, and he agreed to talk about the unspeakable, the day London Bridge will fall down. No, not the actual bridge, though that's another interesting story in itself. Operation London Bridge is the not-so-secret plan for the United Kingdom when the Queen dies.
When the Queen dies, the House of Windsor and the palace will go into super overdrive.
On the day of her death, known as D-Day, the Queen's private secretary will call the Prime Minister and say the words, "London Bridge is down." The news will then go out to the 15 governments where the Queen is also the head of state. After that, the 38 other nations of the Commonwealth will know. A news flash will be sent to the UK Press Association and media all over the world. At the BBC, an alarm for national emergencies will be activated. It's so rarely used that many of their staff don't even know what it sounds like.
You've seen it? No.
All of their anchors will wear black, and their usual red logo will go black as well. At the same time, a man dressed in black will hang a sign on the gate outside Buckingham Palace. The Royals website will also sport the same message, whatever that ends up being. All the flags will be lowered to half-staff, and bells will toll. Immediately after her passing, her son Charles will unofficially become king. He'll make his first speech as head of state that evening. This is the plan if she dies in London, but no need to fret. If she passes elsewhere, they've still got it planned out to a T. The day after the Queen's death, the flags will be raised again, and at 11 a.m. sharp, Charles will officially become king. He may or may not choose to stick with the name Charles, and his wife Camilla will become queen per Elizabeth's request. He will then tour the UK to Edinburgh, Belfast, and Cardiff to attend services honoring his mother. Meanwhile, Westminster Hall will be closed for cleaning and funeral preparations.
The Queen is coming.
4 days after her death, there will be a procession from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall, where she will lie in state for the next 4 days. Important people will be able to visit her first, then the normal people.
The palace is expecting 500,000, a million people to visit her there in her coffin. Then there'll be a funeral, and then we go on from there.
The 9th day is funeral day. At 9 a.m., the bells covered in leather pads will ring muffled tones. The coffin will be carried to Westminster Abbey. The funeral will begin at 11 a.m. Assuming the pandemic will allow it, 2,000 invited guests will attend, and the rest of the world will watch on their TVs. Everything will be shown except for the royals' faces during prayer. After the funeral, the Queen will go to Windsor Castle, where she will be buried next to her husband, Prince Philip, and her father, King George VI.
God save the Queen.
I don't think they'll be sobbing on the streets for the death of the Queen. I think that the tears will be shed and people will feel a moment and a passing, but I don't think they'll be gut punched.
Brits overwhelmingly love the Queen, and the Queen loves them. I mean, she vowed to dedicate her whole life to them.
I declare before you all that my whole life shall be devoted to your service.
They like the tradition of it. They like the steadfastness of it. They like that they come from a place, even with a monarch that had like parliaments and rule by the people for centuries. They like their history, and she is the living link to history.
Look, change is hard, and no one is looking forward to this day, no matter how inevitable it is. But one thing's for sure.
It'll just be a phenomenal 10 days of pomp and circumstance. I mean, they've designed it that way, and that is the genius of this House of Windsor and this monarchy, right? That they know how to put on a good show.
Wow. There's another clip that we didn't play, but it's going to cost as much as $8 billion. Like the service is $10 million, but because they have to change the money and the uniforms and the stamps and there's so many different things that they have to change, it costs.
Did you say how much? Did you say how much? Did you say, Katrina?
$8 billion.
With a B?
With a B, because they literally are going to reprint the money in all 15 of those commonwealths. So if you have some money, I immediately went.
Look, I'm going to look.
Where are your pounds? Do you have some pounds, Chris?
Please. I'm sure I do. I'm sure I did not exchange all of my money the last time we were in London. I'm going to tear this house up.
If you have pounds, it's like this is the time. Hold on to your pounds, because seriously, it's going to be. It's a big deal. So let's just talk about the money in these jewels. Have you been to? I'm sure you've been to the where they keep the crown jewels, the Tower of London.
Yes.
Touring through there. I mean, oh my gosh. Okay, so first let me tell you how much she's worth. I had to Google this. She is
And
worth. Where's one of my
Katrina,
piece of
while
paper?
you're
Go
while
ahead.
you're looking for that, just a fun fact that I found out today about her was that the day that she was going to marry Prince Philip, and she was getting dressed and whatnot, they put the tiara on her head, the diamond tiara on her head, and it snapped in half. And they had to, can you imagine? Can you imagine? So they had to rush the tiara to a craftsman that had to hurry up and solder whatever they had to do to get it ready for her wedding. I said, I can't even imagine, because on your wedding day, you want everything to be perfect and you're praying, you got all your fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong. And can you imagine? I mean, it's not like, her heel broke and maybe you can just grab another pair of shoes and put on because your gown is so long. Who really is going to see the shoes that you have underneath? But your headpiece, now that right there could have been a fiasco. But, when you have it like
one
that,
one of those, I don't know if this is the one, Chris, but one of them is 3,106 metric carats. I don't know if that's the one that broke, but something happened. Something happened when your crown. Clearly, it wasn't an omen about the wedding because they lived a long. I mean, they lived a great life and had a great marriage. Queen Elizabeth is estimated to be personally worth 365 million pounds, which would be $420 million. And that is an estimation. All right. There's when you look at the whole monarch, it's over. Let me get it right here. The monarch itself is in the billions, and I'll get to that in just a second. But it talks about all the different ways that she gets her money. And so Eric says, yeah, 8 billion, just your he said that's your annual salary. As for the monarchy of the whole monarchy, $88 billion. But she is over the years, the royal figurehead has dropped up to 30 places on the paper's annual rich list. In 2020, she was the 372nd richest person. Okay. So she's still got a lot of money. So how does she get her money? 3 sources. The annual sovereign grant payment is one, the privy purse, and her personal wealth and inheritance. A lot of land, a lot of inheritance. And so I went in and it's just interesting. We did the show about gossiping. We did a show about being nosy. There's nothing like just wanting to look at those jewels and see them. But what I know your mouth was just open when you walked through the Tower of London and the jewels they let you see. What's that like, Chris? It's like,
it's unbelievable. I mean, you see those jewels and then you look down at your wedding ring and you're like, wow, right? I mean, unbelievable, the jewels that they have. I remember when Princess Diana had passed away and we were in London this particular year and we went to Harrods. And when you walk in Harrods, they had this huge display with the ring that, what was his name? Fiat, what was her, they were going to get married, but they had the ring, her engagement ring. And when I tell you, it's like, give me a napkin because I started feeling some salivation come down. It was unbelievable. So, when you look at their jewels, you know what? That's a good question, Katrina. Did you research or do you know how much their jewels are worth?
I think I'm trying to remember if this was what it's worth or the number of carats. I think it's worth $4 to $6 billion is what they've estimated. And when you are the monarchy, I don't know if that's just hers or all of them, but there's some other stuff that ain't public. Okay, like everything cannot be public. Oh, we are that. Let's just be clear. That's a lot of jewels and handed down, and the number of things that she's a lot of it is real estate, a lot of it is land and paintings and books and just things that have been handed down. It's just very interesting. I know for some, I mean, let's just talk about the elephant in the room when you talk about the countries that were under British rule, and understanding that today we are celebrating her life, of course, and looking to that. But as it happens around the world, it just will be interesting. I think everyone had an affinity and a love for the Queen herself. But I know that people feel differently about the monarchy, and exactly. We wonder what she left for Meghan. That's going to be interesting. But Prince Harry, whatever his proper title is, Prince Harry is now the son of the king. So let's just be clear. I know his daddy gonna do him right. I know his daddy gonna do him right, regardless of what his brother.
You would
decides
hope
to do.
so.
I know his daddy should do him right. All right,
Katrina, I'm gonna be messy. His daddy didn't do his mama right, but that's another whole talk show. Okay.
Woo! Exactly. All right. Well, we'll be right back. We're just going to talk about it all. Put in the chat your thoughts about the monarchy in general. So I am sure, Cammie, that Meghan will attend the funeral. Absolutely, positively. Her and her children. I can't imagine it being any different. We will be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. I'm going to share some additional fun facts from National Geographic Kids. But you guys, if you go to the website royal.uk, we are talking about the death, of course, of Prince Elizabeth II. And if you go to the website went dark. It's just a one-page website while it's waiting to be upgraded. I mean, I'm going to share some of these fun facts, but go ahead.
I was reading some of the comments, and Julia Robertson said, I wonder what she left for Meghan, but no, it was one. She needs to give the Caribbean their reparations. So like you said, not everybody feels the same way. that the queen
Absolutely.
has fallen. I guarantee you, if you go through some of the history, you'll see. I mean, living 96 years, I mean, a lot has taken place, and we know that people's theology, not theology, but what they believe changes, ideology, and so I don't know where she was at the beginning of her life, and then where she landed towards the latter part. But that's just interesting when you think about all of the countries that she was sovereign over, how they are
Mhm.
really, really feeling about her passing away. And then let me just say, for those of you who want more information, CNN is going to do a special broadcast tonight, I believe at 10 o'clock, about her life, which will give you more information about who she was.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And of course, as we celebrate her life as it goes on, people will really start to talk about the relevancy of the monarchy. And, she wasn't just a figurehead. She was definitely behind the scenes working in so many of the issues that have been important in the UK and the Commonwealth. But there was controversy, of course. And so it's interesting. I know in the chat we also were talking about Prince Harry. And so let's just remember that as much as there's protocol, um, number one, I understand on the last trip he did not see his brother. But let's be clear, he will be there. This is his grandmother, as well as he's lost his mother. I mean, it's just like we would pray for anyone. It's important for us to just be in prayer for them. It's a huge loss when it's something that everyone in the world is watching, and just be interesting. I'm sure that and the Queen, my understanding is he had a good relationship with his grandmother. So interesting. I understand that he's there now. I don't think he made it there before her passing, but he has arrived in London. So some fun facts, just to know some of the things that we haven't shared already. Her favorite dogs were corgis, and she even invented a new breed of dog when her corgi mated with a dachshund called a dorgie. Okay,
Right.
she was the only person in the UK, Chris, allowed to drive without a license. Okay,
That's
and driving
interesting.
even in her later years. Isn't that interesting? She had not one but two birthdays: April 21st, her real birthday, and a Saturday in June when the weather was better, when they celebrated it. Because when you're queen, no one wants rain on your birthday because people stand outside. Okay, so
Hey, Katrina, and we said we have two birthdays too. Our birthday that we were born, and then our spiritual birthday. So we have that in common, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Her hobbies: horse riding, pigeon racing, and football. She was an
What is pigeon
Arsenal supporter.
racing?
I was wondering. I was
Okay.
wondering.
Like, how does pigeons race?
Exactly. I don't know. Do they race? I'm assuming they race in the air. Okay. I guess. So she sent over 50,000 Christmas cards in her lifetime, which actually that seemed low to me. In 70 years, that seemed low. She owned an elephant, two giant turtles, a jaguar, and a pair of sloths. And then this is my favorite one. She went undercover one time. It says on a recent low-key trip to Scotland, she met some American tourists while walking. When the tourists asked if she lived locally, they mentioned that she had a horse. She mentioned that she had a horse nearby. And when asked if she'd ever met the Queen, she simply pointed to her security guard and said, "He has." They were talking to the Queen. Is that fun? Is that funny? Like, oh my gosh. I wonder if they ever realized that they were talking to the Queen. So some fun facts. So Chris, what do you think it would be like right now to be in London? I mean, if we were in London, we'd be right down there with everybody else in the crowd.
Well, Katrina, I don't know if you remember, but we were in London when who had the baby, when Kate's daughter was born, and everything was turned pink.
Pink.
And it was,
Yes, I remember
yeah,
now.
and we were able to get a newspaper the next day that announced the birth of her daughter. And so I just thought, wow, what a perfect time to be in London when something that big was happening in the monarchy. So yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm like, man, is there any way, we can get on the plane and go to London? I mean,
Those
as she
plane
said, it's
tickets
10
just went
days.
up. Okay. Those
Yeah,
plane
that's
tickets
true.
just went
That's
up.
true.
All right. If you
Well,
needed to go to
we'll
London
just
for
get a
anything else,
private plane.
yeah, absolutely. Because literally, I heard them say Harry was on his way, and we know that maybe they, shared with him much earlier than before it was announced. But I said clearly he was on a private plane because that boy he got to London fast. Okay, he had to be on a private plane, of course. So just so much, of course. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we talked really briefly about the new airplane or jet which company is coming out with that will take you from New York to London in a few hours now.
Yep, 3
but
hours.
It's not complete yet. That would be like perfect to get on that and to be able to whip over there and to be a part, because that's a part of history. It really is a part of history.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for most people, it's all they have known in their lifetime. So our prayers are really going out to everyone in the UK. I mean, seriously, you think about the businesses that are affected, the people that are affected, all the people that have served her and worked with her and impacted her, just it causes a ripple effect of a magnitude that we can't even imagine.
Begin to imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am totally, I don't know what the name is, somebody tell me, because I'm sure there's a name. I'm a royalite. I will watch all the coverage. Are you that way? Like, I will put it on my calendar, and I want some tea, and I want to sit in my favorite chair. Okay, the new school lazy boy. Let's be clear, it's the new school version. But I'm gonna lean back in my theater seat and watch it all. Are you like that?
You know what? Because this is history, and because she was the longest reigning monarch, absolutely, I'm going to catch as much of it as I can, because I mean, this is history, and we're alive to see it. So I just think, yeah, it's absolutely something that would grasp or keep my attention for sure.
Absolutely, because when you record it, I like listening to the people, them interviewing the people,
Right.
being there and seeing the people arrive and all of that. I wonder if all the presidents will come. All the U.S. presidents will be there. I mean, you talk about the place to be. I mean, for sure. So honestly, we celebrate the Queen, and I know this is a season of mourning, and so we don't make light of that. Thank you for tuning in today to We Got Issues, and now we will go, instead of saying God save the Queen, guess what? Tomorrow at 11 a.m. we'll start to say God save the King. So let's just pray for King Charles and Queen Camilla. Can you bring yourself to say that? Get ready, because it's happening.
Goodness.
We will be right back. We'll be back tomorrow. All right.
Tomorrow.
We will be back tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.